There was a time when Ubisoft released a game. Fans were so eager to get their hands on it because they promised one of the best gaming experiences one could ever have. Their franchises like Assassin's Creed had turned a new chapter in gaming because it delivered a unique experience with a blend of engaging narratives of history. But Ubisoft is no longer the same company it used to be. Although they have launched some massive games, the efforts haven't turned into much success. Unlike their releases a decade back, every new release has punched them a step back toward a deep crisis. Does this mean we can't expect good games from Ubisoft anymore? You're going to find the answer to that in this video. But first, we need to see how Ubisoft built its empire in the gaming industry. Ubisoft was founded in 1986 by 5 Guillemot brothers who still own the company today. Initially, their focus was on distributing PC games, but they gradually transitioned into game development. Their early titles, such as Zombie and Prince of Persia, helped establish their presence in the gaming market. Ubisoft remained a small company until the success of Rayman, which significantly boosted their profile. Rayman revolutionized the gaming world with its innovative puzzle and platforming mechanics, offering players experiences unlike anything before. By the end of its launch year, it had sold over 400,000 copies, becoming the most popular game in Europe and securing its place in gaming history. This achievement ignited a period of rapid growth for Ubisoft. In the 2000s, they capitalized on this momentum by releasing exciting new titles for the Dreamcast, such as Grandia 2, Tokyo Extreme Racer, F1 Racing Championship, and Taxi 2. However, it was on the PlayStation 2 that Ubisoft truly discovered its identity. By acquiring the rights to Tom Clancy's name and stories, they marked a significant turning point in their journey. With standout games like Tom Clancy's Ghost Recon and Splinter Cell, Ubisoft reached unprecedented heights and transformed the landscape of gaming. Following its earlier success, Ubisoft launched a continuous stream of original titles. Ghost Recon debuted in 2002, followed by Splinter Cell in 2003. In 2004, a sequel to Ghost Recon and Pandora Tomorrow was released alongside Warrior Within. The series continued with Chaos Theory and Two Thrones in 2005 and Double Agent in 2006. Additionally, there were several notable releases during this period that helped Ubisoft gain prominence in the gaming market, including Prince of Persia, Sands of Time, and Far Cry, both in 2004. Advanced Warfighter followed in 2006 with another sequel released in 2007. However, Ubisoft realized that this rapid release strategy was unsustainable as it began to negatively impact the quality of their games. So as a result, subsequent releases required more time for development. The next installment of the Prince of Persia series wasn't released until 2008, taking 4 years to develop. The same was true for Far Cry. Despite the high demand, Ubisoft successfully maintained its position against rivals like Activision, a leader in military shooters, and Konami with its Metal Gear Solid franchise, particularly through the Splinter Cell series. However, the launch of Assassin's Creed in 2007 elevated Ubisoft to a whole new level. It delivered a unique and original experience that fascinated audiences worldwide, offering something completely different. Assassin's Creed emerged as the best-looking game on consoles, featuring revolutionary combat mechanics and movements. The concept of reliving ancestral memories provided a fresh and original experience for gamers, drawing in many new players. Consequently, Ubisoft became a favorite among game developers worldwide and generated substantial revenue. Their success was not only limited to the games they published, but also the quality of the games they developed. Ubisoft adopted a fresh, high-quality approach to game creation, emphasizing strong presentation. They aimed to ensure their games were visually unmatched, and they succeeded in that goal. During that era, Ubisoft titles such as Advanced Warfighter were often preferred over rival games, including the Call of Duty series. At that time, purchasing a Ubisoft game ensured an enjoyable experience. Their games were exceptional. Ubisoft reached an unmatched level of success with the release of Assassin's Creed in 2007, marking the beginning of a golden era for the company. This franchise not only established Ubisoft as a leader in the gaming industry, but also evolved with each new installment. Assassin's Creed 2, released in 2009, expanded on the original game's foundation by introducing refined gameplay mechanics, a richer narrative, and a charismatic protagonist, Ezio Auditore, who is often regarded as the best character in the series. The game achieved immense commercial and critical success, selling over 9 million copies and becoming one of the most celebrated titles in the franchise. This success continued with the release of Assassin's Creed Brotherhood in 2010 and Assassin's Creed Revelations in 2011. Ubisoft had great success with the Far Cry series as well, especially with Far Cry 3, which was released in 2012. This game was groundbreaking and redefined open-world gaming. It featured expansive, explorable islands with diverse environments and a captivating storyline. One of its standout elements was Vas Montenegro, one of the most memorable villains in gaming history. This character illustrates how far Ubisoft has strayed from its original style. Far Cry 3 sold over 10 million copies and was recognized as one of the best games of its generation, setting a new standard for open-world shooters. The series continued its success with Far Cry 4 in 2014, Far Cry Primal in 2016, and Far Cry 5 in 2018, each of which expanded on the franchise's formula by introducing new combat mechanics, engaging narratives, and diverse environments. By 2018, Far Cry 5 had become Ubisoft's fastest-selling title, selling over 5 million copies in its first week and solidifying the series' legacy. Watch Dogs was another game that received a positive reception. It was an award-winning release that offered another fresh experience for gamers. Ubisoft introduced a new perspective in open-world gaming, building on what they established with the Far Cry series. Set in a fully simulated living city, the game allows players to use their smartphones to gain real-time control over the city's infrastructure. Alongside the success of Far Cry and Watch Dogs, Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six Siege had a moderate launch. However, due to continuous updates and strong community engagement, the game evolved into one of the most popular multiplayer shooters. By 2018, Rainbow Six Siege had accumulated over 30 million players. Another significant hit was Tom Clancy's The Division, which offered an incredible experience combining third-person shooting and RPG mechanics set in a post-apocalyptic New York. The Division became Ubisoft's fastest-selling new IP at launch, generating $330 million in sales within its first week. This success demonstrated Ubisoft's ability to introduce new IPs while effectively managing its existing franchises. A review of Ubisoft's achievements from 2000 to 2018 reveals a company that consistently delivers high-quality experiences, innovating within established franchises and creating new ones. However, there was an underlying issue accompanying this success. Whenever a game performs well, Ubisoft tends to capitalize on it by quickly producing sequels, often releasing titles year after year, and eventually they stop abruptly, which had negatively impacted both the developers and the gamers. By 2018, Ubisoft stock soared to its highest value ever at $140 per share, 10 times its worth before the release of Assassin's Creed. Financially, Ubisoft was in a strong position. However, this success did not last for long. As 2018 progressed, flaws in their previous winning formula began to emerge. The main issue was that the company had heavily relied on its major franchises to drive growth and sustain its position in the industry. The strategy began to fail. Ubisoft overly relied on its established franchises. The once innovative, enjoyable, and captivating stories started to feel repetitive, dull, and predictable, leaving players bored and fatigued with the design. The experience of the subsequent series of Assassin's Creed games was quite predictable. This reliance on existing franchises resulted in a series of commercially successful but less innovative releases. Subsequent Assassin's Creed releases like Unity, Syndicate, and Odyssey illustrate this issue. Although they were commercially successful and received positive reviews, they did not reach the heights of earlier entries in the series. Similarly, the release of Far Cry Dawn in 2019, a direct sequel to Far Cry 5, faced the same challenges. While Far Cry Dawn achieved moderate commercial success, it fell short of the sales figures seen with Far Cry 3 and Far Cry 4. There was a significant problem underlying these releases. It was the lack of fresh ideas and a repetitive approach to game design. The players felt exhausted and disconnected due to experiences that seemed overly familiar, or by including elements they didn't want to engage with. Game tasks often began to resemble mere checklists necessary to complete the game. Ubisoft's heavy reliance on its flagship franchises like Assassin's Creed, Far Cry, and Tom Clancy titles has led to a widespread belief that the company is simply reusing the same template, making only minor improvements and adding monetization features, such as new outfits, weapons, and extra missions. Ubisoft's lack of innovation and the growing similarities among its titles have led to a decline in excitement for new games. Players began to see Ubisoft's offerings as formulaic, characterized by expansive open worlds and repetitive tasks rather than unique and engaging experiences. This trend marked an early sign of their downfall. The appreciation for their games shifted to criticism. One of their biggest mistakes was ignoring player feedback and continuing down the same path, frustrating their audience. Gamers have pointed out that game designs have become formulaic and predictable. Open-world games often feel more like checklist simulators. However, between 2018 and 2019, Ubisoft experienced a revival by listening to player feedback and incorporating it into their games. As a result, the quality of their releases improved, leading to significant financial success. After a period of declining interest and player fatigue, Ubisoft successfully bounced back in 2019 and 2020 by revisiting some of its core franchises and introducing new ideas. One of the standout releases from this period was Assassin's Creed Valhalla, which launched in 2020. The game achieved remarkable commercial success, selling more copies in its first week than any previous Assassin's Creed title. It received praise for its engaging narrative, improved combat mechanics, and immersive historical setting, which helped rekindle interest in the series. Valhalla showcased Ubisoft's ability to evolve its games, although some criticisms remained. Many reviewers and players criticized the game's excessive length. Even though Valhalla introduced some innovative elements, the narrative dragged on for too long. Completing the main story took over 60 hours, and achieving full completion required nearly 200 hours. Despite the initial positive reception of certain features, they eventually began to feel repetitive, turning the experience into a mere checklist of tasks yet again. In 2020, Ubisoft launched Watch Dogs Legion, introducing an innovative play-as-anyone mechanic that allowed players to recruit and control nearly any character in the game. While the game received mixed reviews, its storyline was considered less compelling than those of its predecessors. Another significant release that year was Immortals Fenyx Rising, which showcased Ubisoft's willingness to experiment with new IPs. The game offered a vibrant and humorous take on Greek mythology, combining open-world exploration with puzzle-solving and action-packed combat. Many people enjoyed Immortals Fenyx Rising, with some even preferring it over Breath of the Wild at the time. Although it didn't achieve the commercial success of franchises like Assassin's Creed or Far Cry, it demonstrated that Ubisoft could still deliver a fresh and enjoyable experience outside its well-known titles. The key takeaway from this period of growth for Ubisoft was its willingness to innovate and take creative risks. The pandemic and lockdowns created a favorable environment for game developers. As more people spent time at home, the demand for games surged. Ubisoft capitalized on this situation thanks to its established franchises and live service games. They offered a wealth of content for players. During this period, Rainbow Six Siege experienced tremendous growth, with its player base surpassing 70 million by the end of 2021. They kept the community engaged through regular updates, new operators, and seasonal events. Many game studios that released games during the lockdown experienced substantial growth and profits. However, this growth was largely inorganic and unsustainable, and none have successfully maintained it. Given this context, it's not surprising that Ubisoft saw some growth during that period. While they did make progress in addressing certain game design issues, most of their problems persisted, and the same criticisms continued despite the passage of time. Ubisoft has been prioritizing quick profits over the long-term potential of their games. They have pushed players to the brink of exhaustion in their pursuit of immediate revenue. Instead of considering how much more they could earn if their games had longer lifespans, the company often rushes to capitalize, ultimately harming their titles. Player frustration with monetization practices and pricing was already high, yet Ubisoft had responded by worsening these issues rather than addressing them. Ubisoft's rapid decline in recent years can largely be attributed to a series of disappointing releases. Tom Clancy's Ghost Recon Breakpoint, released in 2019, exemplifies many of the issues plaguing the company. The game was plagued by bugs, featured poor writing, and felt repetitive and generic. It was excessively bloated and monetized, offering paid XP boosts, vehicles, and skins that detracted from the experience, undermining immersion in what was essentially a single-player game, much like many of Ubisoft's other open-world titles. Even today, Ubisoft continues to carelessly incorporate RPG mechanics, such as skill trees, which seem to be designed solely to extend gameplay time. These elements often create barriers that prevent players from progressing in the story or facing specific enemies without engaging in grinding. Moreover, many people overlook that Ubisoft's declining sales are primarily due to increased competition from other publishers. New and successful IPs like Elden Ring and Genshin Impact have captured players' attention. Elden Ring has set a new benchmark for open-world design and exploration, while Genshin Impact has reshaped expectations with its free-to-play model and high production values in an open-world setting. Games like these prompt players to make comparisons. And when you contrast Ubisoft's offerings with other experiences available in recent years, it's no surprise that many people are choosing not to play their games. Ubisoft's main problem is its failure to adapt and recognize trends, which has led to declining quality and generic monetization strategies. Take their first quadruple-A title, Skull and Bones, a $70 live service game that took 11 years to develop and cost over $500 million. Ultimately, it turned out to be a more tedious version of Assassin's Creed Black Flag, attracting fewer than 700 concurrent players on Steam. This was a game which was meant to be a super hit for Ubisoft, but it turned out to be an utter failure, as it has only less than 1 million players in total. They shifted their focus back to Prince of Persia with The Lost Crown, which didn't meet the expectations of gamers yet again. However, it was priced at $40 for a Metroidvania title, in a market where similar games typically cost less. Star Wars Outlaws, priced at $70, seemed like it would be a significant success for Ubisoft. However, it ultimately underscores the company's troubling situation. The game suffers from various quality issues, including unappealing character designs, bugs, repetitiveness, and inconsistencies. This game is also bloated with so many side tasks to achieve full completion. Looking ahead to the upcoming release of Assassin's Creed Shadows, the game has received criticism even before its launch. Many fans have noticed several glaring issues. The setting is Japan, ideal for the Assassin's Creed franchise. However, the game features a tokenized character with vague historical relevance and a hip-hop soundtrack during combat. This approach raises questions about the representation in the game. One of the other concerns is that Japanese audiences have taken into Twitter of having a black samurai questioning inaccuracies in representation of their culture. Even Elon Musk has criticized Ubisoft for their injection of DEI in Shadows. There is a burning concern to what extent Ubisoft has misused the history and culture of Japan. However, Over the years, players have come to expect less and less from Ubisoft titles. So, why are investors so worried? Why are they distancing themselves before one of Ubisoft's largest releases in recent memory? It's quite simple. Why would anyone choose to play Assassin's Creed Shadows when there are far better Eastern-themed alternatives that offer superior combat, richer environments, higher quality, and better storytelling? Why select Assassin's Creed Shadows when players could enjoy Black Myth, Wukong, Ghost of Tsushima, or Rise of the Ronin? Why revisit something they've already experienced when they have the opportunity to explore something entirely new? Ubisoft's challenges reflect those faced by many of the largest publishers and developers in the industry. Over the years, in their pursuit of growth and profits, they have lost sight of a unified vision for their games, straying from the creative foundations that once established them as industry leaders. They have focused on expanding market share and maximizing revenue through aggressive monetization strategies. This fragmented approach has resulted in a loss of identity, leading to games that feel more like products recklessly produced to meet quarterly targets, rather than passionate, well-crafted experiences. Ubisoft's game release schedule is remarkably fast-paced, with minimal intervals between launches. The company rarely develops new IPs or explores fresh approaches to delivering existing franchises. This lack of a long-term vision and failure to adapt have diminished the quality and uniqueness of their games, eroding the trust and enthusiasm of their player base. They have left many players feeling exhausted. Ubisoft seems trapped in a cycle of diminishing returns and declining relevance, lacking a clear sense of purpose and commitment to innovation and quality. Does this signify the end for Ubisoft? Unfortunately, it's too late for the company to reverse its course, and the comprehensive overhaul it requires is likely a decade away. Ubisoft is currently in a dire situation that cannot be turned around in the short term, at least for another 10 years. The company has not only experienced a decline in sales, but has also lost its standing within the industry. For over a decade, Ubisoft has mainly focused on just 3 titles: Assassin's Creed, Far Cry, and Rainbow Six Siege. It seemed that Star Wars Outlaws was also just another game similar to the Assassin's Creed series, lacking innovative mechanics. While some aspects such as the environment and narrative showed improvement, the core gameplay mechanics appeared dull. This clearly shows a troubling level of creativity within the studio. We don't want to see companies like Ubisoft fail, as they have provided excellent entertainment for gamers over the years. Ubisoft has created games that have left memories for many of you, but as per some internal sources of Ubisoft highlights, the main reason that haunts the growth of Ubisoft is ignoring player criticism. The upper management of Ubisoft thinks what they are doing is right, but no results have supported their decisions or ideas so far. The management has been completely ignoring the critics towards their games and have built a toxic positive culture which has hindered out-of-the-box creations. Even though this is not something only relevant to Ubisoft, this has clearly ruined the gamer's experience. However, there is a silver lining of hope in the dark cloud for Ubisoft. That is, Tencent is planning a buyout of Ubisoft. Will that be a hope for the company's future? Tencent is already a major shareholder of Ubisoft, owning about 10% of the company. Well, if Tencent buys out, we can certainly expect a change in their approach to game development. Of course, there is a high chance of a big layoff in the company, and also they will narrow down their titles and close some of the studios as well. Hopefully there will be a new top management as well, but will they prioritize gamers' opinions and listen to their criticisms to fix their issues? That's what has caused the biggest damage to the company, not listening to gamers. Ultimately, they are the ones who are buying and playing the games. So, can Tencent direct the ship through the storm without wrecking it? The discussions are in the early stages still, so we'll have to wait and see their decision. Finally, this is a warning for the whole gaming industry. No matter how big you are in the industry, if you are not listening to the market, you need to be ready to face the consequences as well. The moment the companies start ignoring their market feedbacks, it's the beginning of their end. So that's the end of this documentary. Thanks for watching, and we value your support a lot. If you have enjoyed the video, we invite you to subscribe to the channel so that we can meet up like this in another interesting video. Now, before quitting this video, let's comment down your favorite Ubisoft game, the game that made you start loving Ubisoft. And there is another interesting video about how game tech is slowly becoming a reality. Microsoft has already brought some game wall tech into real life. It's insane. You can watch it by clicking the thumbnail on the screen. We'll meet again very soon.